Blurry. My name's Blurry Face and I don't care what you think. Hello. Hi guys, welcome back to Guy Set, the guy's guide to what should be talked about. This week, or this past weekend, I went to my 5-year high school reunion. What? I didn't think I was gonna go, and I will talk about that a little bit more. But I ended up going, and this episode is going to be my recap of my high school reunion and what I've learned from it. But I ended up going, and I have a lot to debrief you on and to discuss. So that's what this episode is gonna be. This is gonna be my high school reunion recap. So I wasn't gonna go because I thought, I've stayed in touch with the people I want to stay in touch with the most, which is like 2 people. It's not like 2 people, it is literally 2 people I've stayed really, really good friends with. And I was kind of like, you know what, I've stayed close to the people that I want to, and they want to stay close with me, because friendships are 2 ways. That kind of felt like enough to me that I didn't need to go see people that I haven't seen in 5 years, because they haven't reached out to me, I haven't reached out to them. But then I thought about it, and there's definitely a lot of like missed connections and missed friendships that kind of just fell to the wayside simply because of just like distance and time apart. Like, we all went to college, we all moved on, and that was kind of it for some of those friendships. And I think there was opportunity to become friends with people that, or like stay really good friends with people that I lost touch with. So I was like, you know what, why not go? I don't have better plans on that Friday night, and like, you never know who you haven't seen in a while and like what connection can be made again. So I decided to go, and I went and pre-gamed with a couple of people before in an apartment in Philly. So it was really nice to go with a little group before, because obviously there's like some nerves around it, right? Like, there's so much high school like drama, or like things that went down in high school that you haven't seen these people in 5 years, and you never know like what's gonna happen or who's gonna be nice and who's not. And I'll get into that, because I really thought everyone was genuinely so much nicer than I remembered. But I was a little nervous to go. Not as much as I thought I would be, because I was like, I don't really have anything to lose. I have the friends that I have made from high school that I know I'm gonna keep, and anybody else here is kind of just like an extra add-on, and like a connection that like is now going to be made and maybe potentially become friends with or stay connected to. But otherwise, like, I have the people that I have in my life, and I'm happy with that. I'm content with that. So I didn't feel like I had anything to lose by going, which I think helped a lot. I think my mindset going into this was just very like, you know what, fuck it, like, let's see what happens. As I said, nothing to lose. So I wasn't too nervous, but it was nice going in with a group. And once I got there, like, it was actually kind of nice to see the people I haven't seen in so long. And I'll talk about that a lot more in a little bit, of why I think that and what's changed. But the talking points, which is like the next thing I wanted to talk about, were very similar with a lot of the people. It was kind of like, oh, how are you? What are you up to now? Where are you living? What's your job? And it was a very similar conversation with a lot of the people. And there were some friends that I had been really good friends with in high school that just I haven't seen, and I would kind of like push those conversations to be more than the average, how are you, what's your name, what did you major in, where are you working, where are you living? And I would be like, all right, like, let's like kind of cut the shit, like, what's really going on, like, how are you, like, any like relationships, how's the family, like, stuff like that. And that was only people that like I really knew. And I haven't talked to in a while, but like the talking points were very similar, and you kind of got the vibe for how people were pretty quickly, because it's hard to maintain a face in those conversations when you're having them so frequently and for literally 2 hours. So you kind of got to the bottom of how people were really doing, and it was nice to see that everybody was kind of on a similar like wavelength of like, yeah, like, we went to college, it was great. First job's going fine. Like, what I mean to say is that it was nice to see that everybody is doing okay. Like, for the most part, everybody's doing fine. And a lot of people, we spend a lot of time comparing ourselves to others, and I've talked about it in previous episodes, thinking that it's like, oh, like, this person's doing so much better than me, and they have a girlfriend, and they have this, and they have that. And like, sure, some people are doing better than others, but for the most part, everybody is doing fine, which was nice to see. So the experience, like, while it was there, was very cool. Like, everybody was much nicer than I remembered. People were willing to kind of just share pretty openly and honestly how they were doing, which I've talked about a little bit. And yeah, I actually had a really nice time like connecting with or reconnecting with a lot of the people that I totally lost touch with. And it was nice. I mean, probably people are still talking shit about other people because that's what humans do. But for the most part, like during it, I didn't feel that, and I didn't feel like it was that high school experience all over again, which was my only real nerves going into it. Was that I was like, damn, like I don't really want to put myself back into that high school environment where like I liked it, I had a good overall experience, but high school is hard and it can be like incredibly toxic and a very tough place to be. So I didn't really want to put myself back in there because I feel like I've grown up a lot since then, but it didn't feel that way, which was cool. So of course, it's also fun to see who's doing really well and who's doing the best and who glowed up the most and who's getting married, which is insane to me because I'm 23 years old and I'm single. But to each their own, like no judgment. That's so cool for you if that's where you're at. Like, you know, unbelievable, because personally, I'm nowhere near there. I feel like I don't even know myself well enough to let alone get married. But like for some people, that's amazing that they're there. Crazy to see, and that's another easy way to start playing that comparison game again, but I didn't feel like I felt the need to compare to a lot of the people there, which was cool. We'll talk about that. But honestly, my biggest takeaway, which is the reason I wanted to make this episode, was that I feel like I've actually grown up a good amount, like a very decent amount, in the sense of what I care about is so much different than what I cared about in high school. And I mean, my priorities, and I'm sure a lot of your guys' priorities, are so different, as my priorities were so out of whack in high school. Like what I cared about then versus what I care about now is drastically different. And I just feel like incredibly more confident in myself than I ever did around those people at that time. And there's a lot of reasons that go into that. I mean, I've spent 5 years getting to know myself, getting to know other people, learning about relationships, learning about myself, learning about my mental health, learning about my physical health, just learning so many things that have led me to where I am now that I never had the opportunity to have before in high school when I was around these people. I'm just so different than I was then that I am now. I am different now than I used to be then, in a good way. So much different now than I was then, and I feel that way for a lot of the people that were there. So I don't think it's the difference of that we've matured so much, but it's that people are just a lot more comfortable in themselves now. At least I feel that way, and it felt through my interactions with some of the people that they also felt that way. I don't know, high school is such a weird yet formative place and time in your life, but you still have so much growing up to do after that. I kind of went into this thinking that went into the reunion thinking that like everybody just drank for 4 years and then hopefully got a job and is happy with where they are now. And while that certainly is true, I left feeling like I had grown up a lot during the time apart from these people. Like I actually did a shit ton during those 5 years. As I said, just learned so much about everything, about myself. This was just a really good reminder to me that everybody there is just trying to figure it out, and we always have been, yet it felt like some people had it so much more together than the others, and I was in the group of the not together people. The people I thought, or we as a grade thought were so cool and had it all together with like a big ass friend group and always different plans or parties or hookups or dates or whatever. Whereas I had plans with the same 3 people every weekend and loved it, of course. But like, we looked at them all the time as, damn, they're having the best time ever. Whereas we're on the couch watching the same show or movie or whatever. Like, it felt like they knew what they were doing. And now 5 years later, none of that matters, and it feels like we're all in the same boat, or at least now on the same playing field, whereas that wasn't the case before. Before in high school, I felt behind, or at least in the middle of the pack, behind the cool people, the cool people, but now that we're all out of college, I said cool with air quotes if you couldn't tell from my like saying cool 4 times, but now that we're all like, sorry for saying like so much, I'm really working on it. Now that we're all out of college, we either have a job or we don't. We either moved to a new city or we moved back home. We're either in a relationship or dating or even married or single. We either are happy with where we're at or we're not. We're either content or we're striving for more. We're either struggling or we're not. There's very similar options for us now that everybody's out of college, and you're kind of either in one bucket or the other one, which is kind of cool to think about. You know, before it felt like that some people had it all together, and they may have, but to the people that were behind, it felt like they had the opportunity and they had the upper hand, and the rest of us just kind of had to like lay low, and we just kind of had our place in life, and that was that. And now that's just not the case. And it never was, but it's so much easier to feel that way when you're in that high school environment and you're in that place where you're literally surrounded by people in the halls that are doing better than you or having more plans than you, and you're not. Whereas now, we all have the same opportunity. Now, I want to set something straight before I go any further. I don't mean this to say that some people peaked in high school, because I don't believe in that. I don't believe people can really even peak in high school because it's such an incredibly hard time for literally everybody. Yes, it is easier for some, but it is still hard. I do think some people had it much more together than others. I was in the not together group. But now we all kind of have that chance, as I said. What I more mean to say is that that group now has more of a chance and now has the opportunity that it felt like those people only had. The ones that had it together, or it felt like they had it together, may have to lose it to then find it again, and they may always have it. And if you always have it and you're in that group, fuck you, because that's annoying. But no, I'm just kidding. I do hope that's the case for you if that's true. High school me would have been very jealous and upset about that, because that's how high schoolers work. But now I'm at a place where I'm like, I don't really give a shit. Like, that's cool if you're in a place where you have it together or you feel good in yourself. That's awesome, because there's so many people who don't feel that way. So it's cool if you can get to a place where you do, especially if you always have it together. Like, that's just cool. But I want to speak for myself here. I spent a ton of time comparing myself to others in high school. Like, not that I'm not comparing myself anymore, because that's not true. But I spent a ton of my time comparing myself to others, mostly because I was constantly surrounded by those same people, and it was hard not to. And sure, you can still do that on social media now, but you can turn that off. Before, you couldn't. You were surrounded by it. There was no really getting out of that. And you had years of it. Like, that wasn't a choice. That wasn't up to you. Now, it's different, because you're surrounded by everybody else. There's a whole new set of people. There's everybody now. It's not the same hundreds of people or few people that you're always around. Now it's just different. The reunion was honestly just like a really eye-opening experience for me through many gin and tonics, I will say. Like, if there wasn't an open bar, the decision of me being like, I have my friends, done. I would not have gone if there was no open bar, because you can't not drink at that type of thing. I would need like a little bit of liquid courage to get me through, because while I wasn't nervous, I sound like I am now. I sound like I'm being defensive of my nerves. While I wasn't nervous, a drink or two really does help ease the pain of those awkward conversations. But a lot of the people that I was with told me that they listened to the podcast, which shocked me and was very cool. And if that is true and you're here right now, hi. And I hope you get what I'm saying, because I think it's cool that everybody now has an opportunity to like excel, whereas it only felt like some people had that opportunity before. And it's cool that everybody now gets to just find themselves and find their passion and find what they're looking for. It's exciting. High school can be so hard, and I don't think we look at it, now that we're adults, or not adults, now that we're out of college, we don't even think about that anymore, because you're talking about the transition from college to real life. We don't really talk about that transition from high school to college, which is incredibly weird. You're going from surrounded by the same few people, or a lot of people, to, I mean, the size comparison is just not even close. Like, you're going from the same people to a world of new people. You have an opportunity to reinvent yourself, to actually find what you're looking for, to actually follow your passions, to find your curiosities, to develop relationships, to get to know yourself so much better, to spend time on your own, to live on your own for the first time. Like, that transition is crazy, and we don't talk about that ever, so I'm happy I'm finally getting a chance to do that. But just in general, I want to go back to just high school in general. I compared everything. I compared myself to other people's looks, to their grades, to their scores, to their athletic abilities. The mile run was the day I dreaded most in middle school and high school. I can now run a mile, like, pretty easily. No, it's not, I'm not like flexing that. I can now run a mile because I'm in shape, but before, that was the day I dreaded most, and it was only because I knew I thought I would be judged because I was slower than people, or I was worried I wouldn't be able to finish the mile, or the mile run, or like that the fast people would just like think they were all better than me, and they were, because they could run a mile and I couldn't. And like, looking back, like, that's kind of embarrassing. But that was the day I dreaded most, and the fact that was my worry then, and like, that's not important. That's literally the least important thing that's ever happened to me, but at that time, that was the biggest and most important thing. It's wild. That was my worry in high school and in middle school, and like, that's okay, that's fine, because that was that at the time. That was the most important thing at the time. That doesn't matter to me as much now, or I wouldn't have a podcast where I'm talking about my feelings and being pretty vulnerable on here every week. Like, looking back, I would never think I would do something like this, because I like, my biggest thought and my biggest worry was what people thought of me, or how I looked, or how I was perceived. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of you guys out there, or it wasn't, and that's amazing. And I wish I had like the mental strength to be at that place, but I wasn't, and it would be a lie to say I was. And like, a lot of that stuff was weight gain and my weight and all that, and we'll get into that in another episode. That's not the time for this right now. But that was a lot of my high school experience, and it would be a lie to not talk about that or bring that up. But I always looked at other people and was like, fuck, how are they? I would always just compare myself. I don't have to get into the actual comparisons. Comparing yourself in high school is normal and also incredibly toxic. But that's literally just part of the experience. For me, two of the things that made me most insecure in high school were my weight, which we'll get into. My dream is to have Josh Peck on this podcast, and then I'll really talk about it with him, because, you know, that would be the coolest thing in the world. But it was my weight and my acne, which was so bad at so many times, and I was always jealous. My sister and my brother both had bad acne, but my sister could always cover it with makeup, and that's not something that guys do. And I would have to go to school with, or I would go to school with these like huge pimples. And at one point I went on Accutane, which like saved my life at that time, because I thought it was the best thing in the world that I could finally cover up or get rid of this acne, which was horrible because it made me feel terribly insecure. But I had these huge pimples, and when I went on Accutane, my lips got so chapped, and I would line them and overline them with Aquaphor because I needed it. Like, I would be like, my face would be literally shedding off, and I looked like the Joker from The Dark Knight. I like the scene when he's like, wanna know how I got these scars? Like, that's how I looked, and that's how bad my lips were for so much time. And that was just part of my experience and made me super insecure. And, you know, everybody has their shit in high school, and for me, it was, those two were my biggest things, and it sucked. But it's just part of it. And these are things on top of already feeling insecure, that you're behind other people or less cool than other people. Like, there's just so many more factors that lead to your already impending doom of how you're already feeling, that just push you down even further and make you feel worse about yourself, and add personal insecurities to social insecurities and social anxieties. And that's kind of just like the high school experience. If you're listening to this, I wrote this little thing. If you're listening to this and you're in high school now, know that it gets way better, and I do genuinely mean that. I hope some people in high school are listening to this, because that would be awesome. If I had this in high school, I really think it would have helped me. I hoped and dreamed for a lot of the things that I have now at that time. Like, it does get so much better, because you're able to follow the things you actually love and find what you're passionate about and actually hone in on that. For me, I loved English class. I loved reading and writing and talking about shit. I mean, look at me now. And I sucked at math, and all of my good friends were good at math, and I wanted to be good at math and like math so badly, but like, first of all, who likes math? If you do, sorry. And second of all, like, I was never gonna be good at it. I tried so hard and it was just not gonna be my thing. So why try to like literally squeeze a square peg in a round hole? Is that expression? I think that's that expression. I don't know. We spend so much of our time in high school trying to be something that we're not. And after high school and now 5 years later, everybody has the opportunity to really get to know themselves and be who they are and find what they love and follow their passion and actually start acting upon that stuff. And it was just cool to look back and realize how far I've come from that prior or previous self. Overall, I went into the reunion like hoping to rekindle some friendships or maybe meet a cute girl, like, to be honest, that maybe I forgot about or she forgot about me and then saw like, oh, like how like tall and handsome he is now. I'm just like literally the same height. But overall, my biggest takeaway was just how much I've grown up from that time. I don't think it's matured. I think it's just that I've grown up and have found a lot of confidence in myself that I never had in high school. And it's just nice to be able to feel that way, to have something you wished for so much at that time now. Like, if you had asked me what is something I wished for and really wanted at that time, it would be like confidence in myself. And I feel like I've found a lot of that now. There's so much work to do still, but I feel like I've found a lot of that now, or I wouldn't be sitting on this microphone and putting this out there to you right now. So now the big question everyone wants to know, will I be at the 10-year reunion? No. No, I don't know. I hope to be super booked and busy with Guy Set that I'm too busy and I have to, be like, I'm so sorry, I'm jet setting to Mallorca. Wish I could be there sending you $1 million. But if I'm not, then I'll be there. But otherwise, I hope I'm busy. But, if I'm not, then I'll have another experience like this and be like, oh, you know what, that was cool to realize how much, maybe I've now actually matured and now I'll see how nice everybody is and how everybody's actually doing and how much less of a shit everybody gives now than they used to. I will say, I think I had a unique experience after the reunion. Like, I wasn't sitting there like really introspective, like, like I've grown up so much from the time that I was with all these motherfuckers. Like, no, I thought about all this after the fact. Like, during it I was enjoying myself and I wasn't being a weirdo in the corner, being like introspective, writing in my notes app. I think the outcome from this weekend and that reunion was pretty cool and I wanted to share it with you. So that is my high school reunion recap and what my big grand takeaways are from 5 years to now about myself. I was reminded when I was thinking about all this stuff of episode 23 when I talked about 3 things that I've learned at 23, and the quote was, "Comparison is the thief of joy," and I believe it was by the very intelligent Theodore Roosevelt. But I do really believe that quote, and I wish I had seen it sooner or had taken it in sooner, because I think a lot of my high school experience, a lot of people's high school experience comes back to comparing and comparison, and just thinking other people were doing better than we are now. And it's still always a thing now. Like, that didn't go away. It's just easier to block out knowing that you're not surrounded by it. And it's nice to know that we're all on a level I'm looking at it as like a level playing field now, that we're all on similar grounds to now figure out what we want to do with our lives and figure out where we want to go and where we want to take this thing. But it's so much easier not to compare to others now that you can shut it off or turn down that noise because you're not surrounded by it. Comparison isn't over because we've left high school or left college. Like, that's still always a thing, and that will always be a thing. That's just a part of how humans work, and that's how our brain works. But it's easier knowing that we have a lot more control of our lives than we did back then. So I hope you like this episode. I have a really, really exciting announcement tonight at midnight, I think. I don't know, maybe drop it earlier. Tonight is the first ever Guy Set newsletter where I will include, I think I'm being really loud. Okay. I'll be a little quieter. Okay, the first ever newsletter where I will include a bunch of gift guides that I've created. So gifts for what to buy him, what to buy her, what to buy your mom, what to buy your dad, what to buy your brother, what to buy your sister, what to buy your significant other, what to buy your girlfriend, what to buy your boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. Like so many gift guides that you can see on this newsletter. I will also include what book I'm reading, I don't know, you'll see tonight. Just subscribe to the newsletter. There's a lot of fun things on it. There'll be what book I'm reading, like a quote or something that, or like a mantra or something that I'm just trying to internalize or use this week or this month. Some products that I really like that I recommend. None of this stuff is sponsored right now. This is all just stuff I really like, as I say right now, because I hopefully I'm sponsored at some point. But it's a really fun newsletter. I'm really, really excited to put it out. And for you to get it, send your email. There's a way to put your email into the subscription on my website, guyset.com. It's like the first thing you'll see. It says like, subscribe to the newsletter. Just put your email in and you'll receive the newsletter. Or you can DM me at theguyset, TheGuyset, on Instagram or TikTok. Your email to be included in the newsletter. And this newsletter will be dropping the last Tuesday of every month from here on out. Hopefully it'll be earlier, but this one I'm just behind on, but because it's the first one and I want to make sure everything's great. But it's really fun. I'll also put all these gift guides and stuff on social media. Maybe I'll talk about them a little bit next week too on that episode, just as a reminder. But subscribe to the newsletter. It's gonna be really fun and I think you'll enjoy it and you'll get to see a lot more stuff. And you can also go to the website starting tonight at midnight, guyset.com, to find all of these gift guides and all of this stuff. Okay, I think that's it. If you like this episode, I really hope you did. Please like, subscribe, comment, give it 5 stars, leave a review, and send anything you want me to talk about, anything that should be talked about, to my email, josh, Josh, at guyset.com. Nobody really does that, so I should probably stop saying that. But people do DM at theguyset, TheGuyset, on social media, TikTok or Instagram. DM me what you want me to talk about, and I will talk about it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really like talking about and getting kind of introspective about my high school experience, and I will continue getting deep and doing deep dives into all this shit because this is the stuff that guys need to be talking about. Thank you again for listening, and I will see you next Tuesday. See you guys. Oh, my hair. Was that my hair like that the whole time? Like this, like... Whatever. Bye. See you guys.